Hello friends, today we are going to study world at the time of First World War as part of our international relations curriculum. In fact, this lesson is for the fifth semester BA Political Science. As part of international relations curriculum, we are discussing this. Unless we know the developments of Europe and other parts of the world during 19th century and shortly before the First World War, we cannot understand the real reasons behind the First World War. As you all know, First World War was held between 1914 to 1918, and this resulted in a Treaty of Versailles concluded between the defeating powers and victorious powers in 1919. And this has also resulted in the establishment of League of Nations, the first world level government to prevent the World War. So the First World War was held between 1914 to 1916. So before the First World War, at least 50 years before the First World War, there were hostilities, there were conflicts, there were quarrels, there were disputes among various nations of the world in general, European nations in particular. In today's lesson, we'll be discussing about various disputes and quarrels that were there between European powers during the last half of 19th century and first 2 decades of the 20th century. So this is how the world at the time of First World War is the title of the lesson. So during 19th century, the world politics were centered around Europe. European nations used it to control and regulate the politics of the world. That's why world politics during 19th century were called as the Eurocentric politics. So world politics in a way are controlled and regulated by major powers of Europe, such as Britain, France, Russia, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and other countries. So these countries were very instrumental in conducting the world politics. That's why world politics during 19th century were Eurocentric. The European politics were considered as the world politics. Almost the European powers, particularly certain new empires and certain old empires, have made quarrels among themselves, and they have conducted the relations, the international relations of 19th century. So world politics in 19th century were Eurocentric. So the politics of Europe were considered as the politics of the world. This is particularly evident in 19th century. European powers such as Spain, Portugal, France, and England emerged as strong states from 15th and 16th centuries. There is a wave of nationalism during 15th and 16th centuries, and that engulfed major countries of Europe. And some of the countries have got revolutions, and some of the countries have got nationalist movements. Some of the countries have changed themselves from monarchy to republican forms of government. So that's how Spain, Portugal, France, and England have emerged as strong states from 15th and 16th centuries. So these countries used to control the politics of the Europe and in turn the politics of the world. That's why these 4 countries are considered as the superpowers of 19th century, the superpowers from 16th, 15th to 19th centuries: Spain, Portugal, France, and England. These 4 countries are considered as strong states which have emerged from 15th and 16th centuries. Here we see the pictorial representation of Spain, Portugal, France, and England here. So these are the 4 major countries that have claimed themselves as superpowers, and they have become strong countries from 15th and 16th centuries onwards. Spain, Portugal, France, and England became powerful due to nationalism and colonialism. There was nationalism. There was a wave of nationalist sentiment among the countries. People became patriotic, and people have the emotional and psychological feelings of oneness, the psychological unity have cropped up, and this psychological unity has turned itself into nationalism, a nationalist sentiment that has led to the patriotic feelings among the people. So the feelings of patriotism are called as nationalism. So nationalism became rampant in Europe in the modern era, particularly from 15th and 16th centuries. As a result of nationalism, most of the European countries have come out of feudalism and became absolute monarchies and nation states. They have become nation states, and people have demanded for self-rule, and people also have demanded for certain civil rights and political rights. So this is how Spain, Portugal, France, and England became powerful nations due to nationalism and also colonialism. And with the advent of geographical discoveries in 14th and 15th century, like Columbus discovering America, the sea route to America, Vasco da Gama discovering the sea route to India, and Magellan circumnavigated the whole world. In the process, discovered Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, and Indonesia. So this is how the geographical discoveries have led to colonialism, and colonialism was established in 17th century, and it continued to exist till first half of 20th century. So colonialism made the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America as colonies of Spain, Portugal, France, and England. This is how these four countries have become very powerful due to nationalist sentiment and also the trends of colonialism. And colonialism transformed itself into imperialism with political control and economic exploitation of colonies by major powers. As we already noted, that certain powerful countries of Europe, such as Spain, Portugal, France, and England, have established colonies in England, France, in Spain, Portugal, England, and France, have established colonies in Asia, Africa, and South America or Latin America. So this is called as colonialism. In course of time, the colonial masters have established political control over the colonies, and they have also economically exploited the native colonies in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. This is how the nature of colonialism is transformed itself into imperialism. Imperialism is political control over the countries by European powers, is called imperialism. Colonialism is making colonies and making spheres of influence and making trade relations, merchandise with Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So colonialism, in course of time, transformed itself into imperialism with political control and economic exploitation of colonies by major powers. For example, in India, if you take India as an example, India was colonized in 17th century by Britain, France, Portugal, and other countries. But in course of time, it is only England that succeeded to continue its colonial control over India for over 2.5 centuries. So India, in the beginning of the colonialism, the British masters have only held merchandise, trade relations, mercantile capitalism was there between India and England. But in course of time, various governor generals like Lord Dalhousie, Lord Ripon, and various other viceroys and governor generals, they have made wars with the local kings, the princely states. They have made annexations, they have conquered, and they have captured certain areas, and they have established political control over many parts of India. This is how colonialism started in 17th century, but by 18th and 19th century, the full control, the political control of Britishers have established on India. And this has also led to the exploitation of natural resources of India by Britishers. So this economic exploitation and political control of colonial masters is cleverly termed and clearly termed as imperialism. So imperialism is political control and economic exploitation of colonies by major powers. And during 19th century, if we look back the 19th century configuration of European continent, it has three world empires. One is the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which is called as Habsburg Dynasty, Habsburg Empire. Habsburg Dynasty kings were there. That's what is called Habsburg Empire. The second one is Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire of Turkey. That's also called as Khalifa Empire. And third one is the Russian Empire. Russian Empire was held by the Romanov dynasty, the Romanov Empire, Romanov dynasty. So three major dynasties held three world empires in the European continent. So these three world empires, particularly the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that's called as Habsburg Empire. The second one is Ottoman Empire, that's the Empire of Turkey, where the Khalifa dynasty ruled the Turkey. That's also known as Ottoman Empire, which was held by Khalifa as its power head. And third one is Russian Empire. The Russian Empire was held by Romanov dynasty. That's called as Romanov Empire. So Austro-Hungarian Empire, Ottoman Empire of Turkey, Russian Empire are the three important oldest empires of 19th century Europe. So these three empires are called as the old empires. In course of time, there are new empires. We'll come to that. But 19th century has witnessed the existence of three important old empires, which were in course of time disintegrated, themselves led to the emergence of various nation states. For example, the Austro-Hungarian Empire disintegrated and resulted in Austria and Hungary, the emergence of Austria, Hungary, and other countries. Likewise, the Ottoman Empire of Turkey disintegrated itself and led to so many other countries, like Central Europe and Southeast Europe, European countries, like Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, various other countries. Likewise, the Russian Empire. Russian Empire also disintegrated. So this is how there are three major dynasties and three major empires that were there in Europe during 19th century. One is Austro-Hungarian Empire, that's called as the Habsburg Empire. The second one is Ottoman Empire of Turkey. The third one is Russian Empire, led by Romanov dynasty, Romanov Empire. And these three empires do not have industrialization. When we compare ourselves between the world empires and the new nation states, like Spain, Portugal, England, and France, they are the new states. And these three empires are old empires. What is the difference between these three empires and Spain, Portugal, Britain, and France? Spain, Portugal, Britain, and France have achieved industrial revolution. And these three empires do not have industrialization. And industrialization was minimal in these three empires. And these three empires have not resorted to any colonization. But whatever the countries that have achieved industrialization, like Spain, Portugal, Britain, and France, they have resorted to the colonization and colonialism. But these countries, these old empires, particularly the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that's also called as Habsburg Empire. The second one is the Romanov of Russian Empire. The third one is Khalifa Empire, Ottoman Empire, that's called as Khalifa Empire. So these three empires have not achieved any industrialization. As industrialization was minimal in these old empires, no colonization was undertaken by these empires outside the Europe. And 19th century also saw the rise of three new empires: British Empire, French Empire, and German Empire. So these three empires have expanded themselves with so many colonies throughout the world. The British colonialism has established the British Empire. The French colonialism has established the French Empire. The German colonialism has established German Empire. So as a result of colonialism and imperialism, Britain, France, and Germany have established empires, which are called as British Empire, French Empire, and German empires. So we can see there are 6 empires during 19th century European politics. 3 empires are old empires and 3 empires are new empires. The 3 old empires are the Ottoman Empire of Turkey, the Austro-Hungarian Empire or Habsburg Empire of Germany, Habsburg Empire of Austria-Hungary, and third one is the Romanov Empire of Russia. These 3 were the old empires, and besides these 3 empires, there were colonial masters. The colonial empires, British colonialism established British Empire, French Empire, and German Empire. So this is how 19th century has witnessed 3 old empires and 3 new empires. So in the light of these developments, in the light of these geographical facts, we must discuss our lesson plan today. Our lesson is about the world politics at the advent of First World War. World at the First World War. That's our topic today. So we'll be discussing our lesson plan. The first one is 19th century political, economic, and social conditions of the world. And second one is 6 empires. They are the dynamic players. And third one is conflicts among these empires. The fourth one is spread of nationalism and formation of alliances and counter-alliances, rise of industrial capitalism, rise of USA and Japan. After that, we'll make a critical evaluation. So our lesson is divided into various parts and subparts. Our lesson plan goes, the first of all, we must know by 19th century, what are the political conditions, what are the economic conditions, and what are the social conditions of the world. After that, what is the significance of 6 empires that we have discussed? 3 old empires and 3 new empires. The 6 empires, namely 3 old empires, which include the Austro-Hungarian Habsburg Empire. The second one is Ottoman Empire, which is called as Khalifa Empire of Turkey. The third one is Romanov Dynasty Empire, the Empire of Romanov, that's called as the Russian Empire. These are the 3 old empires. And there are also 3 new empires, the British Empire, the French Empire, and the German Empire. These 3 new empires have got the empire status due to their colonialism and expansion of their borders due to colonialism and imperialism. So this is how these 6 empires became the dynamic players of European politics, world politics in general, and European politics in particular. So we'll be discussing about these 6 empires. After that, what are the conflicts between these empires? What are the conflicts among these empires? In the course of time, in fact, these conflicts only led to the First World War. So to understand the reasons behind the First World War, we must know the conflicts among the empires of 19th century. That has ultimately led to the 20th century First World War. So the conflicts among the empires is also an item of our lesson plan. And after that, we'll also be discussing about the spread of nationalism. The spread of nationalism is another important aspect. As a result of nationalism, Germany is formed, Italy is formed, and so many other countries also have made successful attempt to get themselves as the status of the nation state and political independence. Some countries have succeeded and some countries have failed. But in later course, all the countries have succeeded, and nationalism, in fact, percolated to all the countries and engulfed to all the countries, and people have realized their right to self-determination. So as a result of this, nationalism is spread. That's an important aspect. And formation of alliances and counter-alliances. These alliances are mainly the military alliances, military friendship agreements. They are called as alliances. The strategic alliance or military alliance. So when some countries make an alliance, military alliance, there is also a counter alliance against to the alliance. So alliances and counter-alliances is also there. After that, 19th century witnessed the success of industrialization and rise of industrial capitalism. Industrial capital spread to almost all the parts of the world, from Europe to Asia to Africa to South America, North America, Australia. All the countries have experienced the rise of industrial capitalism by colonial masters mostly. So this has also led to so many disputes. And 19th century also has witnessed the emergence of two more countries, not European countries, but outside the Europe, called the rise of USA and Japan. USA in North American continent and Japan in Asian continent. So these countries also have emerged as the superpowers. So these countries, the emergence of USA and Japan also led to world politics and world political dynamics, which in course of time led to First World War. So these are some of the issues that we are going to discuss today. First of all, we'll be discussing the 19th century political conditions. As we all know, the world politics were Eurocentric at the time of 19th century. So politics in general were concentrated among the European powers. That's why they're called as the Eurocentric conditions. And world politics are nothing but the European politics. European politics are considered as world politics. So world politics were Eurocentric because major European powers, strong powers, have regulated the world politics. And so many powers, for so many nation states have emerged as powerful states in 19th century. They're all European countries like Britain, France, Portugal, Spain, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Russia. So these are the countries that controlled politics throughout the world. That's why the politics of Europe in course of time is considered as the politics of the world. So world politics were Eurocentric politics. This is first important political condition. Second one is widespread colonialism. All the European countries which have achieved industrialization, particularly Britain, France, Spain and Portugal, they have expanded their roots and established colonies in Asia, Africa and Latin America. So as a result, many countries were under the control of British Empire, French Empire and German Empire. This is called as colonialism. So establishing colonies, these colonies were established by Britain, France, Spain and Portugal for their industrial revolution purposes. They wanted raw material from these colonies and they wanted markets for all their finished goods in the industries. So they wanted to establish new colonies in Asia, Africa and Latin America. This has led to the spread of colonialism, widespread colonialism. And there is also international anarchy at the time. International anarchy means there is no world power as such, world body as such to supervise the world politics. And there is no world power to control the world politics and to control the war in world politics. And there is no global level government either to control the world politics or to prevent the war. This is called as international anarchy. And there is also growth of nationalism as a political condition in Europe, particularly in Central European states and Southeast European states, like some parts of Turkey, experienced nationalism, the growth of nationalism. And nationalism again has two types. One is the positive nationalism and negative nationalism. The positive nationalism is patriotism and negative nationalism is hatred to the neighboring countries. So positive nationalism and negative nationalism both were there during 19th century. While people having patriotism to their own country, also have hatred to neighboring countries. So this is how they have positive nationalism and negative nationalism or aggressive nationalism, both were there during 19th century. So these are the political conditions. World politics was Eurocentric. There was widespread colonialism. There was international anarchy, as there was no world body to prevent war, to prevent international war, and growth of nationalism in many parts of the world. So these are some of the political conditions that were emerged in 19th century. Now let us see the economic conditions. In the economic conditions, many of the European states, excepting the world empires, have experienced industrial revolution. Industrial revolution has multiplied the production. As a result of industrial revolution, the production became surplus, and the surplus production has to be marketed in colonies. That's why colonialism resulted. So to market the finished goods, Britain has established colonies in Asia, Africa, and South America. And Britain also wanted raw material for the factories and industries. That's why it has colonized certain fertile areas like Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And it has exploited the natural resources of Asia, Africa, and Latin America for the benefit of its industrial revolution. So this is how industrial revolution was a success during 19th century in many countries of Europe. And likewise, there was economic exploitation of superpowers. Spain, Portugal, France, Britain, these are countries are considered as superpowers of Europe. And these countries have made economic exploitation on colonies. They have established colonies on the one hand. On the other hand, they have also exploited these countries. In course of exploitation, these countries have cheaply taken away the raw material from the colonies, and they have dumped all their market goods, market produced goods or machine produced goods in the colonies. So this there was economic exploitation of superpowers. There is drain of wealth from Asia, Africa, and Latin America to Europe. The European countries virtually taken away the wealth, natural resources, human resources, physical resources of Asia, Africa, and so Latin America for the benefit of their own countries. So economic exploitation of superpowers was also very rampant during 19th century. And now let us see what are the social conditions prevailing in 19th century. Due to industrial revolution and due to the growth of trade and commerce, merchandise, certain new sections of classes have emerged in the market, in the society. They are the middle classes and lower classes. The middle classes are secretarial classes or clerical classes, the managerial classes in the factories, they are called as the middle classes. At the same time, the working force in the factories are called as the lower classes. So 19th century has also experienced the emergence of middle classes and social classes besides the upper class. So these are the three important economic classes emerged in the society: upper class, middle class, and lower class. And each class has its own culture: upper class culture, middle class culture, and lower class culture. So society has its own norms and culture for each class, and middle classes and lower classes have emerged during 19th century society. And there are also religious persecutions, religious intolerance, religious victimization, forced conversions into one religion to another religion was also evident during 19th century. This is particularly evident in parts of the Turkish Ottoman Empire. An Ottoman Empire of Turkey, particularly the Central Europe and Southeast European countries like places like Balkans, Serbia, Greece, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Romania, Bulgaria. These are the places which are otherwise part of the Ottoman Empire during the old empires, they have huge amount of Christian population. These Christian populations were persecuted religiously by the Turkish rulers. The Turkish rulers were Turks and Muslims. So the Christians faced religious persecutions during 19th century. And as a result of these religious persecutions, the people of these areas, particularly Central Europe and Southeast European countries, they wanted independence, they wanted nationalism. So religious persecutions or religious victimization, or religious intolerance, religious indifference, religious victimization, which is called as religious persecutions, were also evident in 18th century, 19th century. And these conditions have led to the movements for assertion of rights. People have led so many movements for assertion of rights, political rights, economic rights, social rights, civil rights. So these are the 19th century conditions. Now let us see what are the 6 major empires, dynamic players in world politics, particularly the European politics of 19th century. As we have already noted, there are 3 old empires and 3 new empires during 19th century, which are responsible for the regulation of world politics in general and European politics in particular. And whatever the quarrels, disputes and conflicts that emerge among the 6 empires are magnified as world politics, world conflicts, world disputes, world quarrels. So these 6 empires include the Habsburg Empire of Austria-Hungary, the Romanov Empire of Russia, the Turkish Ottoman Empire of Turkey. These are the 3 empires, 3 old empires. And there are 3 new empires emerged as a result of Industrial Revolution: England, France and Germany. So these are the 6 empires that have claimed themselves as dynamic powers, dynamic players in world politics in general and European politics in particular. So these are the 6 empires that have become dynamic players of 19th century politics. Rise of nationalism. Germany emerged as a nation state in 1870 under Bismarck. So Bismarck has changed the picture of Germany. Before that, Germany was not there. It was called as Prussia. And some states, like small states, like 370 states, have unified themselves under the statesmanship of Bismarck in 1870 as a powerful Germany. So the emergence of Germany was not in the interest of France. So France was against to the unification of Germany. So Germany emerged as a nation state in 1870 under Bismarck. And likewise, there were conflicts among the empires. Germany and France became hostile because France was against to German unification, and Austria was against to Italian unification. In 1860, Italian unification was occurred under the leadership of Count Cavour, and in 1870, Bismarck has established Germany as succeeded in unification of Germany. So German unification was opposed by France, and Italian unification was opposed by Austria-Hungary. So Germany and France led a war that's called Franco-Prussian War, in which France did not want Germany to be unified, and it was against to German unification. And likewise, Austria was against to Italian unification. Austria-Hungary Empire was against Italian unification. So the nationalism and unification of Germany and Italy were opposed by France and Austria. So this is leading to conflicts among the empires. And Germany and Russia became hostile over the issue of dominating Poland. There is a small place called Poland where the Poles, people who have the nationality of Poles. So Poland was a territory between Germany and Russia. So on the issue of dominating Poland, Germany and Russia became hostile with each other. So this is all about the advent of First World War. So in course of time, these conflicts have changed their form and they become military conflicts and led to First World War. So before that, some 50 years of history of conflicts among the nations from 1870 to 1940. So Germany and Russia became hostile over the issue of dominating Poland. And likewise, Russia and Turkey was against each other. The imperial powers were Balkans, Balkan islands or Balkan territories, where Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Montenegro, and other nationalities of people live. And these people are Christians. And these Christians faced religious persecution from Turkish rulers. And Turkish rulers were Muslims. So this is how there is an imperial quarrel between Russia and Turkey. And this quarrel is related to the Balkan people, people of Balkan area. And these Balkan area people were Christians. And Russia wanted Christianity to be respected, while Turkey wanted Turkey was against Christianity, and this led to religious persecution of Muslim rulers on Christians. So this is how Russia and Turkey, there were imperial quarrels over Balkan area, in which the Turkish persecution of Christians was a fact. And likewise, Austria and Germany supporting Turkey against Russia. So in the event of a war between Turkey and Russia, Austria-Hungary and Germany wanted to support Turkey against Russia. So Russia and Germany had some issues. They were against each other or the control of Poland. So in such a case, Austria and Germany supporting Turkey against Russia. And in the meanwhile, there was scramble for for Africa for acquiring colonies. So there were certain powers, particularly England, France, Spain and Portugal. These powers were the first generation powers to acquire colonies in different parts of Asia, Africa and Latin America. But German unification was held in 1860. Italian unification was held in 1870. German unification was held in 1870 and Italian unification was there in 1860. So Germany and Italy are the late entrants in the race for colonialism and acquiring colonies. So there was scramble for Africa, and that led to division of Africa in 1858 conference. So there was a very tough competition among the European powers for acquiring colonies in Africa. This is called as scramble for Africa. And likewise, there is spread of nationalism in 19th century, particularly, Europe, countries like Italy, Germany, Poland, others, and Central and Southeastern nations wanted nation status. So Germany became a nation state in 1870. Italy became a nation state in 1860. Poland and other Central and Southeastern states, Southeast European states wanted nationalism, but they could not become nationalism immediately, nation states. But in course of time, they have become nation states. So spread of nationalism, as I have told you in the beginning, nationalism has two important dimensions. One is positive nationalism and second one is negative nationalism. The negative nationalism is called aggressive nationalism. Positive nationalism is patriotism and having the patriotic feelings over his motherland. Anybody can have the positive nationalism. But simultaneously, people in some of the European countries also have hatred to the neighboring countries. While having patriotism to their own country, they were also having hatred towards the neighboring countries. This hatred towards the neighboring countries is termed as the negative nationalism or aggressive nationalism. So nationalism is almost pervading in all the countries of the Europe. Germany and Italy have achieved unification as a result of nationalism. Poland and other Central and Southeastern European countries were not immediately gaining from nationalism, but in course of time, during later periods, they have gained. Germany in 1870 under Bismarck and Italy in 1860 under Count Cavour have achieved nationalism. So nationalism was a success in these countries. The spirit of nationalism could not succeed immediately as Hungarians, Czechs and Poles were fighting against Austrian and Turkish empires. So in the Austro-Hungarian Empire and also in the Turkish Empire, there are some nationalities who wanted the status of nation state. They wanted political independence. They wanted to establish their own countries. They wanted the right to self-determination. So nationalism among Hungarians, Czechs and Poles was not immediately possible, but in course of time it was a success. After Crimean War between Russia on the one side and Turkey, Britain and France on the other side, nationalism is a success in Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria and Montenegro. So Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria and Montenegro were part of the Turkish Empire. So when these nationalities are fighting for nation state and political independence, Turkey was against it. On the other hand, Russia supported the national movements in Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria and Montenegro. That's why there was a war between Russia and Turkey. So in that war, Russia is on one side, Turkey, Britain and France on the other side. So it was a fight, it was a war against Turkey by Russia with the demand to grant nation state status to Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria and Montenegro. And Turkey agreed to give Bosnia and Herzegovina to Austrian Empire. In Austrian Empire, which is a neighboring empire to Turkey, Turkey was also referred as sick man of Europe in 19th century. It was slowly disintegrating itself and so many nationalities were claiming independence and they wanted nation state and they wanted to utilize their right to self-determination and they wanted to establish their own nation states. So Turkey was slowly disintegrating itself. So in course of time, when Turkey was disintegrating itself, Turkey gave two districts, namely Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina, these are the two districts, which these two districts have the Serbian population, mostly. The Serbian nationalities were there. So these two districts were transferred from Austria, from Turkey to Austrian Empire. So Turkey agreed to give Bosnia and Herzegovina to Austrian Empire. And people of Bosnia and Herzegovina were related to Serbia. They were Serbian nationalists. So these two dishes people wanted to be a part of Serbia. So that's why Bosnia and Herzegovina has become a war of contention between Austria and Serbia, which in course of time led to a great world war, the First World War. In fact, First World War was, the immediate reason for the First World War was the demand for Bosnia and Herzegovina for Serbia. And the Austrian prince, Ferdinand, was shot dead in Bosnian capital, Sarajevo. So people of Bosnia and Herzegovina, they wanted to be a part of Serbia, but Austria wanted to control these two districts. So Bosnia and Herzegovina, which are otherwise part of Turkey, Turkey in fact gifted these two districts to Austria. These two districts are not originally belong to Austria, but it was a part of Turkey. Turkey wanted to give these two districts to Austria, but the people of these two districts were Serbians. Bosnia and Herzegovina became a conflict between Serbian nationalism and Austrian imperialist interests. So this has become a conflict between Serbian nationalism and Austrian imperial interests in course of time. The First World War also held immediately because of this issue. Bosnia and Herzegovina has become an issue. When the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina, who are the Serbian nationals, wanted to be a part of Serbia, but Austria did not want to give independence and it suppressed all the protests. So in course of time, the Austrian prince Ferdinand made a visit to the capital of Bosnia, Sarajevo, where he was shot dead by a Serbian national. So Austria wanted Serbia to apologize, but Serbia declined to give any apology. Thus led to give an ultimatum by Austria to Serbia, and Austria was supported by Germany, Serbia was supported by France. So likewise, there were military alliances. This led to the First World War. So the immediate reason for First World War was Bosnia and Herzegovina. The conflict or the Bosnia and Herzegovina between Serbian nationalism and Austrian imperialism led to the First World War. So but the issue of Bosnia and Herzegovina has a long history before the First World War. Had it not been a problem between Turkey and Austria or Serbia and Austria, First World War could have been avoided. So the Bosnia and Herzegovina, the transfer of Bosnia and Herzegovina from Turkey to Austria has become a rallying point for the emergence of First World War. In fact, the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina were Serbian nationals and they wanted to be with Serbia. So this is the immediate reason. And Balkan Wars among Bulgaria, Serbia and Greece in 1912 was also held. Just 2 years before the First World War, there were Balkan Wars among Bulgaria, Serbia and Greece. So the first 2 decades of 20th century, from 1900 to 1914, Europe has experienced so many tensions, so many conflicts. Some of them are strategic and armed conflicts. Some of them are political conflicts. These conflicts have ultimately culminated into a First World War. Alliances and counter-alliances. So there were 2 military groups in the First World War. The first group is called as Triple Alliance, comprising Germany, Austria-Hungary and Italy. In fact, it was started well before the First World War, some 20 years before the First World War. It was started in 1882 itself. And this group is called as Triple Alliance, which consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary and Italy. And the second one is 1907 Triple Entente. Triple Entente is an alliance against the Triple Alliance. And this Triple Entente comprising of Britain, France and Russia. So this is how there are 2 alliances. One is an alliance and the other one is a counter alliance. The first alliance is called as Triple Alliance, which is formed in 1882, which comprised of Germany, Austria-Hungary and Italy. And the second alliance, which is formed in 1907, which was known as Triple Entente, which comprised of Britain, France and Russia. In fact, these 2 broad military alliances that have attracted other allies into their fold and led a war against each other. So this is how military alliances and counter alliances led to the World War, the First World War. And in the meantime, there was also a rise of industrial capitalism. As a result of industrialization, industrial revolution, there are so many profits to the European states. As a result of these profits, the capital flow was very high and capital was transferred from one sector to another sector, from Europe to non-European states. This is called as rise of industrial capitalism. And this also has led to tensions among the colonial powers. And in the meantime, there are two important countries outside the Europe emerged as superpowers. One is USA, United States of America, in North American continent. And second one is Japan. Japan was an Asian continent. So the emergence of America and Japan. In fact, the politics of Europe are centered around, the world politics were centered around Europe till the first decades of 20th century. But the first decades of 20th century has also witnessed the rise of America in North American continent and rise of Japan in Asian continent. So these two powers, which are non-European powers, for the first time in the human history, non-European countries have emerged as superpowers, the USA and Japan. So this is how the 19th century politics were mostly held responsible for the First World War. We'll only discuss what are the conditions prevailing in 19th century ending and 20th century beginning. And these conditions have ultimately led to the First World War. So among these conditions, the existence of three old empires, three new empires, and there are the quarrels and conflicts between the empires, and there are also growing nationalism among various countries of the world, and likewise USA and Japan were newly emerged as superpowers in some countries. So these are the conditions that were prevailing at the advent of First World War, and these conditions have also led to the formation of two military alliances. One is Triple Alliance, the second one is Triple Entente. So these two military alliances also led to militarization of Europe, and this militarization has ultimately led to the First World War. So this is all about the Europe and world at the advent of First World War. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.